Hi there. I'm Linda Gifford. Going to pick up where we left off last week. Um, I'm Linda, like I said, I'm the survivor of childhood sexual assault. That would be years of childhood grooming and assault. I work with people like me who have been assaulted as children, also more and more with adults, also more and more with male survivors. And I'll tell you, this week's topic is anger management. And, I won't lie to you and say that the things that are revealed to me in my personal coaching, counseling, I'm not a trained counselor, I'm a survivor who has gotten in the habit of working with other survivors. And I'm just saying the things that I regularly hear. If it's true that misery loves company, well, I should be super full of love, and I guess I am. I'm super full of love, but I'm super full of well deserved anger. Well deserved anger. In the 7 chapters of my book that are already posted on my self talk page, Sweet Survivor, Self Talk Sweet Survivor. I'm trying to change the name, but Facebook makes that very hard to do. So in increments, it's adjusting. So bear with me as I get everything together as Sweet Survivor, because we've come together as a rescue fund. And this is what matters to me, is to make sure that people who have been victimized, are being victimized, have the means to get somewhere safe and to hook up with the people that are waiting to help. We need transportation, and that's what the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund is all about. So please do support it. I have a subscription opportunity, I like to call it, for the price of a cup of coffee, like they say. But it's true and it's easy to do. But we are rebuilding it at the moment, so give me a couple of days and I will announce that it's back up. Um, and it is sweetsurvivor.com. Also goes to feelgoodfairtrade.com, who many of you know is we are approaching 5 years in business online as an ethical retailer of products made by women, family, and communities of artists and entrepreneurs, including groups who have been given alternatives to sex work in impoverished communities in Indonesia and Thailand, and um, others who have been rescued from sexual trafficking, who are learning a trade, who choose to be there. Really cool stuff in very small collections, but a lot of them. So do support feelgoodfairtrade.com. But here today, I want to talk about managing anger, because we work with a lot of triggers and we talk about triggers that involve, deeply personal, intimate things, sexual things, relationship issues. But there's a pervasive societal, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Society is generating a constant stream of triggers to those of us who have been victimized in a sexual way, be it what they call abuse or assault. Um, and that's a whole lot of us, adding to good reasons to be angry. I mean, there's no shortage of good reasons to be angry. I wrote down some statistics on the RAIN uh, website. RAIN is the host of the sexual assault hotline that I quote here. I need to plug it in. It's 1-800-656-4673. And it's the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, and they provide the hotline. And what the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund is doing is providing actual, tangible, here's how to get from here to there stuff to the people who are calling in to the hotline for resource help. We want to be a strong national resource. So help me do that. And if this doesn't convince you, let's throw down some statistics. So I say forgiveness is overrated. It's actually the title of one of the chapters of my book, one of them that's pinned to the top of that page, Self-Talk, Sweet Survivors, I was talking about. Because my book's title is Self-Talk, My Continuing Efforts to Survive Childhood Sexual Assault. So one in every 3 or 4 women reports having been sexually assaulted, and 1 in every 6 men, and those are just those who report. And we know that many, many people do not report. And just to break it down for you, 1 in 9 girls under the age of 18 and 1 in 53 boys under the age of 18, which is 82% females, report having been sexually abused or assaulted. And of the 82% of those, or 82% female, 18% males, of all of the girls and boys under 18 years of old who have reported being sexually assaulted and or abused, 16 to 19-year-olds, females who were 16 to 19-year-olds, were 4 times more likely to have been raped. So if you don't think we're sexualizing our teenagers, then think again. And part of my anger, I mean, it's easy, super easy to be angry at the person who assaulted me for years. It's easy to be angry at serial rapists and violent offenders. But when you look at a society where, here's some more stats for you, 8 out of 10 of all rape and incest victims, obviously incest, but 8 out of 10 rape victims know their assaulter, and that is 93% of children know their assaulter. So many people I talk to feel just like I did, like I was the only one. I'm a freak. I'm a horrible person, that I let this happen to me. The ways I was looking at it, ridiculous and unhealthy ways that I was looking at it. So many of you are also doing that. And that is why we have to have this talk today. Because in doing that, you're spending your lifetime, probably, I did, kicking your own ass. And you might kick it in ways you don't even realize. You might be thinking you're, super badass, progressive, but cold and shut off and unwilling to engage intimately with someone because you're a badass and you're not going to get hurt. I know a lot of people I talk to, including myself, identify with that. Having suffered such brutal pain every time something didn't work out, compared to my expectations of how life should be, I just, boom, I got tough. I'm like walking through the world like Jessica Jones. If you haven't watched Jessica Jones, that might be an outlet for your anger too. I also recommend The Punisher. I do enjoy seeing the bad guy get it in general. And so I am absolutely serious when I cite these shows that I have been watching my way through all of it. Luke Cage, wonderful stuff. I'm drinking Starbucks. Anyway, the anger, we turn it on ourselves. That's the problem. Stop it. You turn it on yourself. So when I was a child, I used to stick pins into my veins to make them bleed. One of the times I tried to kill myself, I slashed my wrist, still have a scar from side to side. It's not pretty, but nor am I ashamed of it anymore. I'm just saying, when you have convinced yourself that you are not worthy, then you also react to what you see in the world as you know is bad and wrong and harmful. You've got anger coming from the inside out and the outside in. And we as survivors, to not be perpetual victims, have to come to grip with that. We have to come to grip with that. So that is what my SPADES, an acronym that I talk about. This is the trigger management guide that I keep saying I'm so close to releasing, and I am, but there's a lot to this stuff. There's a lot to this stuff, and these live streams are my way to think it out and work with you and engage with people that then message me that I work with and learn from. So right now, please, I'm obviously free. I'm just here to listen to you and talk to you and tell you what works for me. And S is the shame is not yours. You have to learn that. We're going to talk way at length about that. P, separating the past from the present, super important. We're going to talk more about that today too in a little while. A is ask for what you want. Don't just take what's given, because we do that. We think we're so unworthy that if anybody gives us a bone, we're like, oh, thanks for the bone. I like bones. That's all I need in life is this bone. It's like, no, you need to learn to pick what you want and realize that you are every bit as in the ballpark as every other human being deserving of love and worth. And these things that come seemingly easy to some are things that to those of us who had the most intimate thing that we could do would be to choose a lover someday, to choose who we bond with on that level. And I mean, you can have whatever feelings. I'm wildly liberal for the most part, but sexually speaking, I'm a one-on-one, just want that bond kind of relationship. So again, not judging as long as everyone is honest and clear, but saying if you want to bond on that level, and maybe even more if you don't, because then I worry more about you being like me. Like I went through 14 years just closed to the idea of intimacy. Just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going there again. And I don't want that to be you, because your sense of self-worth goes way deeper, and we have to let go of the anger that our choices were taken from us, and we have to realize that any decent human on this planet would not judge us harshly because that choice was taken from us. So that's the shame is not yours in brief, but we will get much more into that. But separating the past from the present, that's where I'm going today. Um, yes, we're talking about anger, but separating the past from the present is super important in dealing with anger, because what you do when you sink into past emotions and you assign past emotions to present things without rationally thinking about it, which is what I talked about at length last week. Cognitive behavioral therapy is something I have done in the past and I'm doing again intensively with a trauma focus for the first time. And it's a kind of therapy where you, instead of pushing things down and trying not to think about them like you've pretty much done your whole life, probably, you dwell on your thoughts. You take the time and the space and you dwell and you let it hurt and you remember, and you feel it, you taste it, you see it, you smell it. And you write down your fears and your beliefs, and then you look at what you've written and you start agreeing with or disagreeing with. You provide, the left side of your brain is going to think and write logical proof or disproof of all the crazy ass shit that you're going to write down when you're in that state that you feel you need to be there in the first place. Or is it just me? I highly recommend it. And I'll put the link. I won't be able to do it till tomorrow because YouTube has to have overnight to process these things. And then I'll add an end link. So check it out tomorrow, and you can, or go to the YouTube page. And last week I started back up after several months off to move and get my life and my business and my charity and everything squared away again. So the rabbit hole ties into anger management. When I talk about the rabbit hole, it's that crazy place. It's that place of crazy that we like to say we don't want to be in, but really a primal part of us does, especially if we have been traumatized When you're in a place of just animal, even pain, you want to switch it to disorientation. Hence the fact that rape victims are 4 times more likely to have substance abuse problems as adults, as well as 3 times more likely to have major depressive disorder as adults, because these things affect our sense of self-worth so deeply. And if we're getting angry about this and that, but really basing it, as I was speaking more of last week, basing it on our gut feeling immediately instead of our rational thought processes, then we stand to miss opportunities. We stand to misunderstand um, those trying to communicate with us. Um, and in the past, when that happened to me, then I would just shut that door and move on and never give anyone the opportunity to make sense or not. Um, I never listened. I left my first husband without telling him why I was leaving. I just left. And I was surprised to find out that other people thought that was cold and harsh just recently. Um, anyway, looking back, I see now that I could have told him some things, except I was too ashamed. Um, this is one of those, the, the step in spades, the E in spades is educate and advocate. So jumping ahead, this is one of those points where I'm going to say a little talking would go a long way. Um, you don't want to like wear your trauma on your sleeve, but I hid it from everyone I was ever intimate with, including 3 husbands. Um, and it's probably something that someone would have had an easier time understanding me if they had known that. So I recommend that before you embark on an intimate relationship, that if you have CPTSD, like I do, that the person you're with understands that. And if they're not the kind of human being who can handle that, they're not the kind of human being for you anyway. That being said, it doesn't need to rule your life, and it certainly shouldn't rule your bedroom. And you don't need to give a play-by-play of everything that ever happened to you. Just the gist of here's what I'm working on, here's what I'm working with, and sometimes I feel like this part. Beyond that, I think it's important not to turn your lover into your therapist. Get a therapist. Talk to me. I'm free. Um, but while I want my partner to understand me, I don't want our life to be about me dealing with my shit. Pardon the language. It's a good way to put it, though. That's why I have a therapist. That's why I recommend you have a therapist. So dealing with anger comes down to stepping away from that rabbit hole I speak of. Don't jump into the point of dissociating into mindlessness just to not feel anything. Because as wonderful as not feeling anything is, feeling good things is even better. And you're perfectly 100% capable of that. You are. And it's a beautiful revelation when you get to that point. So, what was it I was thinking? I was thinking to beware and remember that thoughts that you think they're a thing of their own, and they can gain momentum the more you think them. And you can let that loop and loop and loop in such a way that you obsess on it. And when we are angry, we tend more towards obsessive thought, because a lot of times what we're angry about, especially things that are so heinous, like for me, it's the news. It's like I saw a 26-year-old white bus driver get off the hook for raping a 14-year-old black girl because he gave her alcohol, and it was the only one person. So he didn't even do time. he got probation, and just lack of sentencing. These kind of things make me so angry. And then I'll just be like, oh, I just want him gone. I wish he'd die. I just want to kill him, or what, what's wrong with the world? What's wrong? And I obsess to the point that I'm having a hard time even focusing on the things I need to get done. So it's good to remember that your thoughts gain momentum and that you have to make a concerted effort to physically harness your thoughts. Sometimes, if you have obsessively angry thoughts, think about, will what I'm contemplating to either do or just what I'm thinking, does this serve me? Does this make me happier? Is this going to fix the problem? Can I really put acid on his steering wheel and make him run off the road and into the lake without actually injuring somebody else? Oh, was that just me? So yeah, been there. I'm over the deep plotting that was decades ago. Now I take my anger and I do these live streams and I raise money to help get people out of trouble. And I vote in such a way as to support women's rights. And I have feelgoodfairtrade.com buys from mostly women artisans and women-led companies, women-owned companies. I am just trying in every part of my life, all the parts that will keep me out of jail. I am trying to make the world a better place. And that's what you need to do. And the first step in that is to look at yourself and give yourself a big hug and say, you are exactly what a childhood sexual assault survivor or an adult survivor of childhood sexual assault, or a male or a female or a non-binary, whatever you are. You are exactly who someone who has been through what you have been through would be. So check that box, okay? You're normal, you're a normal you. Now you make choices. This is the harshest thing I can say to you, is it is your choice if you're going to live a happy, joyous life, or if you're going to be consumed by anger. I walk an anger line for sure. And I tip it to the do-gooder side instead of the walking tall side, because I choose to. Choose wisely what you're going to do with your life and your anger. And for God's sake, get it out of yourself. Next week, we're going to talk more about separating the past from the present and leading into asking for what you want. But to reiterate, jumping into the rabbit hole of despair, of drunkenness, of crazy or crying, upset, anger is not going to make you feel better when you climb back out of it. It feels really good at the time, because dissociation is the freaking thing we learned to do that felt the best and saved us. Now, dissociate for good. Cut out the BS in your life and the people that aren't serving you or your goals. But be sure not to dissociate for evil against yourself. You and me are 100% good, 100% okay. And we will keep talking and we will keep managing our CPTSD. Some people manage their diabetes. Some people have to take shots every day. We just get to talk to each other. So always look for the bright side, okay? There's a lot of things to be mad about out there. And by God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake, whatever your idea of God is, just live your best life and try to help other people live their best life. Okay? You can do that by supporting feelgoodfairtrade.com. You can do that by supporting the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund subscription. which in a perfect world will be up by, I'm going to say Wednesday, because it's got a whole rebuild going on to make it more efficient than it already was. Who knew?